But somewhere, just about 6 months before I went to college, I met an older woman while I was working in a supermarket. And her name was Linda, and very attractive. And I was not quite 18, and she was about 32. So it was sort of a mutual attraction and seduction, whatever word you want to use. We wound up having an affair. I found out soon after that she was married. I knew she had 2 kids, but I never met the husband. The husband was always gone. He was always away. So I was assuming he was a businessman or a doctor, just with crazy hours.
Get that thing a little closer to you.
Okay,
Just pull it towards you.
Yeah. And
or you can scoot.
Yeah, either way. And ultimately, I find out later on that he is one of the bosses in the Colombo family. And his name's Greg Scarpa, and they called him the Grim Reaper. He had, he told me he stopped counting at 50 bodies, and he's probably got 100 or 200. I mean, it's probably one of the most feared mob guys in history. So
holy shit.
The way I found out was.
Now, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
When you were that age, did you know anything about Mafia?
Not a lot. I knew there was these social clubs all over the place where the guys always dressed better and never worked and had the caddies, that type of thing. You knew it was there, but I didn't know anything about the rules or the real actual lifestyle, the life. I didn't really know what it meant to be in that life until later on, obviously. So, and I did have an Uncle Albert who was a dinosaur with the Colombo family. He died at like 93 years old or 94 years old, and he was very, very well liked in and out of that life. He was one of those guys that you see in movies where they like the mob guy. He was that guy. Greg, on the other hand, was just a vicious, greedy, ruthless mob guy. So, and I wound up somewhere in between because growing up under Greg Scarpa, you had to produce. You couldn't be weak. You couldn't show any weakness. So I learned to be a gangster like Greg.
Okay, so you're having an affair with this woman who's over more than 10 years older than you.
Yes.
And then you find out that she's married to a guy who's an infamous murderer.
Right.
How does that not freak you out? How do you not run for the hills when you find that?
It did, but here's what happened. She broke it like little bits and pieces. She told me first he was an influential guy. He could help you in business. And they actually put me in charge of sales. They had a company, paper products and fire extinguishers, cleaning supplies to furnish, all kinds of businesses, restaurants, and they just made me the sales manager. Just came in, and she told him that she had a guy that can do it, and next thing I know, I meet him that way. So now going to different establishments to get the business, if they said no, the next day he would send somebody to the place and say, all right, Larry, you go back tomorrow. I would go back. They were so happy to sign me up. So the business was, I started understanding, of exactly what he was. But
he was strong-arming people to do business with you.
Yeah, to make sure they gave me the business. Yes, that was his influence. And it was going well for a while. But what happened was, because now I knew him personally, and he was helping me and making me successful in this first legitimate business, I started feeling guilty and paranoid. I says, now it's really, really bad. If he finds out, he's got to kill me. I know who he is now. So this went on for months, and he saw I did some things that were paranoid. Like when he would call me to a meeting, I wouldn't go. I said, he's going to kill me tonight, or if he wanted me to drop him off downtown or bring him somewhere. And I was always the one to do it, but I started worrying. I said, one of these trips, I'm not coming home,
Because he's going to find out about you and his wife.
Yeah. So ultimately, somewhere along the way, they discussed it, or she told him. There's a lot of theories now There's people think he might have known from the very beginning. Very possible. Some say, well, the other thing you got to know is he had 2 other wives. Yes.
At the same time?
Yes. So he had 3. He had one that was living in Vegas, an Israeli beauty queen. He had Connie, who was his first wife with his first children, and then he had Linda, who actually was a common law. I'm pretty sure they never got married. You know, we found that out later on. So he was juggling 3 wives and 3 lives. So the other theory is that I made it easier for him because his youngest wife now wasn't going to complain when he wasn't around. She had her own little toy or her own,
keeping her occupied.
Right. So anyway, he confronts me with it one day. We're driving to the club, and he knew because just a couple of days earlier I didn't show up somewhere, and he said, "This is not like you." He says, "Something's wrong." So on the way, he started breaking the ice, and it's just us 2 in the car, and we would get to the club every day about a half hour before the rest of the men showed up. And on the way, he's saying things like he loves me like a son. Linda loves you. I'm going to have this conversation with you because I think you're very mature for your age. I'm only 19 now. This was about a year and a half later we had this talk. And we wound up getting out of the car, walking into the club. We go, he sits down behind the desk. I sit at my spot on the other side of the desk like we do every day. And he's going on, and finally he says, "I know about you and Linda." So my heart's beating. And I remember always saying that I would never admit it. I would never, ever admit it. I says, I just have to deny it. But something came over me like it was do or die. It was time. I mean, I loved her. I didn't want to not be with her. And my answer to him was, "Greg, I have a lot of respect for you. You know that. And I think you are far from an idiot. But only an idiot wouldn't see it, what was going on. I mean, he knows I'm there, constantly. I'm with her all the time, even when he's away. And I didn't believe he really thought I was helping her around the house and shopping for her. Come on, after all this time. So I sort of, maybe deep inside, I knew that he knew. It's just a weird time. It was very rough. It was tough. But now the weight of the world was off my shoulders. But I did learn one of the main rules that day. He took me outside. We would hang out on a parking meter, lean on the meter, get some sun. And he told me that it's okay. He says, "I'm fine with it. If anybody outside the 3 of us finds out," he says, "you and I will be killed." It's a rule.
Somebody could kill the Grim Reaper?
Well, yeah. We're breaking one of the rules that is told to you the day you become a made guy. You never turn on the family. You have to come whenever the family calls for you. They come first. No drugs. Obviously, omerta, no talking to the law. And no messing around with other people's wives or girlfriends. So I learned that rule that day, but as the years went on, I also learned every one of those rules is broken.